Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Thursday morning. Hard to believe it's Thursday morning. We're broadcasting live from the temporary studios over in Smyrna, visiting with Mallory and Tyler and Chandler. Got a lot to talk about. Watched the Braves games last night. Braves game, watching it with Tyler. He's a Bravesologist, like Billy Roberts, like Frank Duffy, like all these Braves fans. And they're having a lot of fun right now. And I'm going to talk with Dudley here in just a second about some of the stuff going on in baseball. And baseball's really, I think, making a comeback, and that's due in large part to what's happening in college baseball. I think that's a big part of it. But, hey, we got also segment number 2, Vince Ferrara from the Sports Animal up in Knoxville will join us. He is on temporary assignment in Tampa. What a terrible place to be. That's where he's from. He was watching the Tampa Devil Rays and the Phillies last night. I think the Phillies have won 9 or 11 in a row on the road. Incredible. So hour number 2, we'll be talking with the AD Angle Group, John Hartwell, AD ULM, and also Coach Matt Dean, Associate AD at Rhodes College in Memphis. A lot to talk about on the business side of sports. We're here 6 days a week, 25 shows a month. We can be followed on Twitter at Sidelines_live. Watch us on YouTube. And then, of course, if you missed the show, you're working, you're running, you're swimming during the show, could be doing any number of things. Always at your leisure, as Nigel says in the British acronym or vernacular. Go back, www.sidelines.live. You can hear the show there anytime. All the shows are archived. So if you ever have a show, I'd really like to find that. If you can't, just email us, Rob Browne Sidelines. That's Brown with an E. Rob Browne Sidelines at gmail.com. I want to thank listeners like Petunia, Susan May, hard worker, and Waller, bringing on a lot of listeners. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your coworkers, listen to Sidelines College Sports Report again 6 days a week. So let's do it. And also want to say hello to Cheryl Chambers, one of our listeners over in Memphis. Appreciate it very much. And Dudley, saw that you've got an interview with one of the new incoming baseball transfers today. I was texting you last night during the Braves game and listening to Tyler talk about the Braves. They've got 8 or 9 players on their team going to the All-Star game. And then 2 of the other infield guys that are going, Freddie Freeman, former Brave. They boggled that trade. He's back out there with Los Angeles, where he's from. And Dansby Swanson, who's right here in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta. Of course, Atlanta, 6.5 million people to over 22 counties. They claim a lot. But Dansby Swanson from the Cubs will be in the All-Star game. They've assembled a roster a lot like a college dynasty, haven't they?
Yeah, they have absolutely had the right blueprint for a winning baseball team, a continued success. Really the antithesis of what the St. Louis Cardinals have put together.
Yeah.
It's unreal. After I talked to you last night, Jordan Walker hit a 2-run home run, big thing for the rookie. And then our relief pitcher, Jordan Hicks, throws a ball from the mound, I don't know, to some dude down in the right field corner and give him 2 runs. So, yeah, baseball. I love baseball. I don't love baseball watching the Cardinals that much right now, but I do watch a lot of the Braves. So I see really good baseball and really bad baseball right now.
Well, but the Cardinals, growing up in Memphis, when I went to Auburn, I tuned into KMOX, AM 1120, Jack Buck, Mike Shannon. It was St. Louis is the best baseball town in America. I know people tell you Boston and New York, but I really think St. Louis is because it's in middle America. And I'm biased to say that. Not that Boston didn't great, or New York with the Yankees, or Los Angeles with the Dodgers and all their weird stuff, but St. Louis will get it together. I'm just curious, and again, I don't know that much about baseball compared to what I like to think I know about some of the other stuff, but Alex Anthopoulos, before that was John Shearholtz. They've had continuity. You think about the DeBartolo family and Bobby Beathard, what he did with the Redskins and other teams, just, evaluating talent. that is so critical. What's going on in the front office with St. Louis? What I love about you is, yeah, you live in Springdale, Arkansas. You're from Newport, grew up in Balch, but you're tougher on Arkansas, and I am on Auburn. I'm more critical of Auburn than I am of any other school in America. I have to refrain myself, but give me your evaluation of the Cardinals, because they have fans everywhere. I mean, they are the second winningest baseball program, Major League in history in terms of World Series titles, with 11 compared to the 27 for the Yankees.
Yeah, I will give them credit for making the trades and getting Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, those were, I think, great trades. They didn't have to give up too much to get those guys. But the rest of the retooling or restocking or just doing the roster was not done in a manner that was conducive to winning. It was done in a manner conducive to staying above 500 and trying to just keep the fans happy. Maybe win the division, if not, get in a wild card. And I truly learned this year, and I now have much more empathy for my friends that have been Cubs fans all their life, because this is nuts, man. It hurts less. Each loss, 36 and 51, it used to just drive me crazy and be bad mood that next game. But these times it's just expected. Just finding new ways to lose is not the thing that you want to say about your team, no matter whether it's baseball, whatever sport.
Yeah. And, this is interesting. Just looking at 162 games, and my Mallory last night Tyler and I were in the big den watching on the big TV. The Braves game, and she was in here with Audrey going, let's see, how many 162 regular season games. Oh, plus spring training games. And then if they make the playoffs, and I said, oh, easily you could be looking at 200 games. And she goes, get out. I said, what? She goes, get out, y'all. I'm baseballed, but I love it. And I think it's growing due to the college game. This is the ECS House Industries, Chad House, the great folks over there in Cherry Valley, 99,000 square foot warehouse, making the Better Roller, the Pulverizer, the Better Chopper. And they are making some of the best products for farmers in use in the Delta and all over the country and around the world. Proud to have them as a sponsor of the Hogville.net Razorback Report with Dudley Dawson. And Dudley, we went up to Hardy Saturday morning, went over to Red River Ford Toyota and Wynn. Really cool. I was getting my oil serviced and looked at by Austin Futrell and great folks over there, one of our sponsors in Wynn. They had a big setup out there with bass boats and the Cajun food truck from over in Searcy. Oh my God, they had Mark Rose, the number 6 bass fisherman, I think, in the world, from right there in Wynn, and Hunter Bogman from Judsonia. And they were, man, it was unbelievable. There were a lot of people there talking about fishing. And if you think about our audience that loves college football and baseball and basketball, they love hunting and fishing. So, God, that was awesome. We're going to have Hunter on the show tomorrow morning talking about bass fishing. And then Mark Rose will be on with us Tuesday. But you talk about competitive, man. Those guys, they were telling me, said, you watch on TV. Yeah, I may go fishing 3 or 4 days to put together 22 minutes of content on a 30-minute show. Thank God for the edit button. But
we have a lot of events up here on Beaver Lake and some other places too. So it's truly a big time sport now. It used to just be Bill Dance doing a show on Saturday or whenever it was, but now it's as you said, a lot of content and a lot of prize money.
Oh, Jason Gay was on Friday from the Wall Street Journal in the first segment. And he was up on the St. Lawrence River on the Canadian border, and he lives in Baltimore. And he writes for the Wall Street Journal a lot of feature articles about everything and his fascination with fishing. And they had the bass fishing, the national championship team from Auburn. Those 2 kids split $1 million. And he said, I went to meet them. They've got 5 bass boats in their driveway at their house there in Auburn. And I'm going, wow, what a life. And I think they're marketing majors. Very smart to do it.
God bless America.
Yeah, God bless. Exactly. God bless. Read the Constitution to your family and your kids every night. And again, happy the day after the 4th of July. The freedom. We're the greatest country in the history of the world. And we get to talk and see my daughter and Brooks, son-in-law, are listening over in Richmond, Virginia right now. They've been up probably for 3 hours working out. And you remember Bob Marley and the Wailers, Dudley?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
My daughter and Brooks spent the entire month of March in Jamaica working on a documentary with Bunny Wailer. And so my daughter is going to start touring with them. And I'm like, I had no idea you were going to be in a reggae band, but it's to be fun to watch. But she can sing during mass as a kid, and she would always sing Kyrie, and I mean, has a great voice. And we tried to get her the role of Maddie in the remake of True Grit. She got to number 50, the final 50, to the point where they were saying, now, if she's in this movie, she's going to miss school for 6 months, and they're going to be in New Mexico and whatever. But that was really about Fort Smith and western part of Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
People don't realize.
By the way, I did not have on my bingo card this morning. I did not have Bob Marley or your daughter singing reggae.
That's right. And I'm
going.
going.
Either one of those on my bingo card. So.
She's texting me right now, like, because she's watching it on. But I'm like, well, I forgot about that. Let's talk about the Razorbacks. I'm pissed off that people, it's the 1-2 punch. And I'm not saying it because you're on here, but I watch KJ Jefferson, watch Rocket Sanders. That's a hell of a 1-2 punch. Who in the SEC has a better 1-2 punch? And I guess the counter would be, does Arkansas have the offensive line, in your opinion, to do the things that a 1-2 punch like that can give you the opportunity to do?
It's going to be interesting. And I don't know that as far as, productivity and things that they have done on the field, if there's a better 1-2 punch in the rest of the SEC than these two guys. But what I will say is that it's one of those things that if you haven't won and gotten to the top, if you've been a Midland team, 2 years ago, obviously they had a really good year for them. And I think it takes time to get that notoriety. They come out and have a really good year this year. And I think Rocket Sanders is probably getting a little bit more respect than KJ. I'm sure that'll fuel KJ again. That's he works well with the chip on his shoulder. But I just think that, you're right about the offensive line. Now, as I've said on the show many a time, I think they have much more athletic linemen now. I think they have more linemen who have a higher ceiling as a group. And that's saying a lot because, Ricky Stromberg got drafted this year. They had some other really good linemen. Brady Latham's probably going to get drafted high next year. And he's been around here. But I just think that as a group and as athletes who have better athletic potential for what they want to do here, I think that they've got a chance to have a higher ceiling.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a lot of Hog fans at 5900 Walnut Grove at Christian Brothers High School pulling for Patrick Kudus. And, of course, Hayden, Dal Hayden, he's at Ohio State running back. He played a lot last year as a freshman. But, Dudley, I'm telling you, there's so many kids in Memphis going to Arkansas now. When I was coming up, because we're the same age, it was like that wall was like the Mississippi River was the Berlin Wall. I mean, it just people, I don't know if it was the out-of-state tuition or whatever, but so many kids are going to school up there. And I look at Arkansas with Sam Pittman, and again, I'm watching in recruiting. And you think Otis Kirk, I think, does most of the recruiting stuff for y'all. And we had him on the show. Guy's very smart. But I'm looking at so many of these kids. Arkansas's already got 2 of the top 13 players in Alabama committed to them for this year, high school players. I mean, these are good players. I'm not one of these, that guy, he's got a glass eyeball and a wooden leg. One leg's 6 inches shorter than the other, because they didn't get him. No, these are really good players. And I'm seeing it. They've got a bunch of recruiters on that staff. How much time do you get to spend talking with any of the coaches? Sam Pittman, I mean, I love him because he's so genuine, and I think people in Memphis saw in the tragic death of Deion Stutz. I mean, he's there, and he's just special. And they're right there on the river with, if you live in Memphis, you're in Arkansas and Mississippi and Tennessee. And I got a lot of Hog fans listening right now, but let's talk about that. Yeah,
this program's taken a hit in the last month or so with Deion, passing away. Ryan Mallett, who we're having his funeral here in Fayetteville at 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's been tough for him, but I had the opportunity during their football camps to, come over, talk to them a lot. Really impressed with the new guys, as I've mentioned to you. I think the mix up of the staff is really good now. There's a recruiting footprint that goes a long, has a much longer touch, I think, than maybe it has in the past. Certainly you got to work Texas, continue to work Texas. Dallas is part of Arkansas apparently, because they don't have to pay, they're in-state tuition people down in Dallas now. They've worked that out. That's why there's so many cars from up there. But I think that you just look at what they're doing in terms of the 2024 guys. And I think there's 14 or 15 of them now. Quality, a lot of 4 stars. And, you want a lot of 5 stars. That's where you're trying to get to. But you got to get to 4 before you can get to 5. And they're doing a much better job of getting 4 stars. A lot of that is with the two new guys. But also I think that the older guys that have been on this staff for a little while are really, coming into their own as recruiters as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's look at it. Look at the big figure. Okay. You're good with gazendas, aren't you?
Excuse me now?
You're good with gazendas, aren't you? 5 goes into 10, 10 goes into 100.
Gotcha. Jethro Bodine. Yeah.
All right. That was from a guy in the Memphis Quarterback Club, Tom Cooper, who was one of the funniest guys in the world, huge Arkansas fan. And he used to always talk about gazendas when he did the Arkansas report every week. But let's think about it. 3,300 kids, roughly 3,300, in a typical year will sign Division 1A scholarships with 131 Division 1 schools. Now, with the portal, you more and more, you may get 15 out of high school and 8 to 10 out of the portal. But of those numbers, 1% typically are going to be rated as a 5-star, 350 to 400 as a 4-star. So that leaves around 425 are 4 and 5 stars. So about 2,850 of them are 3s, 2s, or 9 rated. So you better be able to evaluate and develop. How do you rank this Arkansas staff in terms of finding kids and then bringing them in and developing them? Now, offensive line, I don't think you can argue because they do that, but let's look at some of the other positions.
I'm going to punt on this just a little bit. I do think that because of the makeup and staff and some of them being new, they've come in strong and done really well. But as with anything, it's a body of work deal, for a time. They've certainly had great recruiting prowess at other schools, but you kind of want to sit around and see it for an extended period of time. I do think that they have a wide footprint in terms of recruiting. I think they are very personable. The staff is very personable. Yeah. From the head coach on down, the thing that, you mentioned in a minute ago, the thing I hear about Coach Pittman more than anything, he's real. If he tells you something, it's true. I get that from a lot of recruits, and they've done an excellent job at getting kids in here early. And a lot of these kids that are committing right now got in here last year, had a chance to see the thing. So they were working ahead. They're working ahead already on the next year's recruiting class. It's something you have to do. I know that all the coaches were excited about having a week vacation or so. I think they were all going to get in, going to go, get some rest and relaxation, but then it's right back at it because here's July, you got another recruiting segment, and that's pretty much in all sports. As you mentioned, I got an interview with Craig Yoho, who is a transfer pitcher from Indiana here in just a little bit. Baseball has 7 portal transfers that they've added to the mix. Coming up this Sunday, the baseball draft, the Major League Baseball draft will start, and there's going to be a few current Razorbacks go. And the coaching staff sitting there watching to see how much of their number 1 recruiting class will end up in the minor leagues instead of college. That's going to be a big thing. They've got till July 25th to decide whether they're going to do that.
Yeah. And it's funny you talk about the guys going to the minors or not. Michael Harris Jr. Here in Atlanta. And I was watching the Braves game last night with Tyler. He's a kid from South Atlanta. And he went to the minors maybe 3 years. And last year he was the number 9 hitter and wins the National League Rookie of the Year. That's evaluation. When people, I read some stuff from some Arkansas friends say, Van Horn's been here 20 years, no national championship. It's time to move on. How long was John Wooden at UCLA or coaching, whatever, before he got to his first NCAA tournament? Does anybody? I bet
18 years, something like that.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good for old Coach Wooden, didn't it? I'm trying to remember. Let me juggle my head.
Yeah, and we've talked about this many times. Van Horn is a great coach. There's no doubt about that. Yes, he hasn't won a national championship, but there's a lot of people who haven't won national championships, and they continue to be employed, and they continue to make a lot of money, and they continue to get close to it. It's overreaction. Sometimes underreaction when you don't have any passion for the sport. Yeah. There's a lot of overreaction here at the end of this year because they didn't get to where everybody expected them to be. And the reason you expected them to be there was because of the coach that you had here. It's not,
that's right.
You can't, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's one of my favorite sayings of all time. And I think that if you don't have the expectations, then you hadn't done anything. If you do, it's hard. You got to continue to feed the monster. But there's no use for a change right now.
Well, you and I both have a bunch of kids. If your expectations of your children are not to be rock star great at everything they do, that's on your ass. Because I expect great things out of my kids. I'm not surprised when they accomplish great things. They're my kids, and all these people love to call them Gen Zs and millennials and Xers or whatever. Cut that out. That's insulting to you and me who've done the job, and all the job is never over. They're your kids forever. And I'm going to tell you, you name me a school out there that wouldn't want to have Arkansas's success the last 20 years in baseball. I don't know Dave Van Horn, but I know people that know him. Ask Butch Thompson. I mean, what other kind of person when Auburn goes up there and got swept, St. Patrick's Day weekend, but Auburn brought 12 of their big boosters up there. Arkansas said, "Hey, come look at our facilities." That's pretty cool. That's first class. And Sam Pittman, same way.
One of the things that, we go back, talk about kids and how it translates into sports and business situations and all that. One thing I always told my son Brooks when he was growing up, I said, say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Open the door. For women, do all the right things. And then if you turn out to be a serial killer, they will say when they're talking about you on court TV or whatever it was back then. I think they used Perry Mason back then. They will say, but he seemed like such a nice kid. Yes. And I said, that's the reputation I want. And between that and telling him about brownie points, he never really understood brownie points for the longest time. And then one day he said, I get it now, Dad. I get it now.
Yeah. Well, another bit of great advice I got was be careful of whose feet you step on in life. They may be attached to the ass you'll have to kiss one day. There you go.
And I would argue with my mom and dad a little bit about nothing great happens after midnight, but I think nothing great happens after midnight once you're about 40. Maybe you should stop. Yeah.
That's right. That is right. All right, let's look at a couple of things here. I'm so excited. I'm drinking a little bit of coffee. I've had some cranberry juice. I'm getting pretty wired up. But, man, Arkansas fans, they're no longer out on the western flank, holding down. You've got Oklahoma, Texas coming in the league. Who do you want more as a permanent opponent? It's pretty obvious Texas is going to be the permanent opponent. But the Oklahoma rivalry, only 15 times they've played since 1892, and only twice in the last 20 years probably. But every game that they've played, it's been a memorable game. Some more for Arkansas, some more for Oklahoma. But it's just the location, Arkansas, Oklahoma, two schools, not just in football, but they're good in everything, men's and women's sports.
Yeah, I've been doing this a long time, as you know, and so it's hard for me even before they got. I mean, I had 10, 15 years in before they even joined the SEC, and they had been playing obviously Oklahoma and Texas during that time. You mentioned the 15 times with Oklahoma, but it sure was it wasn't a rivalry, but it was a game that everybody looked forward to. I'd love to have both of them as permanent opponents for the University of Arkansas. Yeah. It doesn't look to me like that's going to happen, based on that first 2024 schedule that they put out. If I had to choose, I guess I'd choose Texas, but I would take both and maybe drop somebody like Texas A&M, Tennessee, something like that. Somebody that's a little further away than what we have over here. So we'll see. I mean, that's a tough job. I thought they did a great, thought they did great with the 24 schedule that they put out. I know there was an algorithm and all this stuff that they put into it. I don't know math too well in terms of football schedules, but I did think that for the most part they did really good at getting games that everybody gonna like. And as I mentioned before, in that same year, Arkansas's got Oklahoma State on the schedule as well, so that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I was with my good friend Uncle Charlie Lloyd Monger, lives in Monroe, Louisiana, from Memphis, Tennessee grad. Over the weekend up in Hardy, we were on the Spring River. Boy, did it feel good at 57 degrees, caught 119 rainbow trout. Only kept, limits for the 11 people, but we threw a lot of them back. But he's the one, and we've been friends since we were before kindergarten, born. He put an algorithm together back in the fall of 2019. And back when we only had 14 schools, and he did not know at the time, nobody did for sure, Texas and OU were coming to the league. But it showed if you stayed at a school for 4 years, you would play at every school in the conference at least once and have them come to your stadium at least once. And I call it Uncle Charlie's algorithm. But I think they did a great job to where all 14 current members will get to play either Texas or Oklahoma in 2024. I mean, that part is really cool. And then you think about what rivalries will you give up. But growing up, I don't care who you were a fan of, what conference, Texas, Arkansas, just an awesome rivalry. And when Arkansas was in the Southwest Conference, they won the championship 13 times. Texas A&M won 17, and Texas won, I think, 28 or 29 or something like that. But remember, Texas kind of made the rules for Texas a lot of times. Mm-hmm. They're so big, but I think this is going to be the best thing. I said it at the time. I said, I don't know about A&M, but I know for Arkansas, I think it's going to be good because they're going to put your name in Texas a lot more.
Yeah, and they've also, when you mentioned Oklahoma, they've done a really good job recruiting Oklahoma since Coach Pittman's got here. He's actually from Grove, Oklahoma, 70 miles from here. He considered this his home school because he was so close to it. It's worked out well for him. And now he's getting to coach them. But I'm sure I've used the word exciting. We'll see how it plays out a lot today. But there's a lot of people wanting to fast forward to 2024 and kind of skip 2023. You better concentrate on 2023 first, or you won't see 2024 the way you want to.
Yes. I watched an interview about a week ago with Joe Castiglione, the AD at Oklahoma. He was at a Board of Regents meeting. He said, look, everybody's talking, but we still got a Big 12 schedule, and I'm sure everyone's going to be licking their chops to send us off with a loss. And everybody is all caught up in it. You're right. Dudley, I know you're on a tight schedule this morning. You got an interview coming up in a couple of minutes. First off, thanks again always for sharing your time with us on the Chad House, ECS House Industries, located in the heart of the Delta, Cherry Valley, Arkansas. If you want to know where that is, that's between Wynn and Vandale and just south of Harrisburg, where they got a damn good Sonic. By the way, driving on 14 over to Waldenburg, that's where Josie's Steakhouse used to be. Now, Pintails is there. We went through Waldenburg. Population now, 56. Take a right, go up to Wiener. Wiener's about 700. And I tell you one thing, there's so much rice being grown. Rice might get to $17, $18 a bushel this year. And I'm going to tell you what, those agricultural extension stations, you may not know what they are. Just think about Mr. Gimbel on Green Acres. There's 2 Mr. Gimbels in every county in Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, you name it. It is absolutely, it's like looking, flying over the Swiss Alps in January, the rice over there. Maybe a cottonmouth or 2 out there, but God, what a beautiful sight. You got to love the natural state.
My favorite kind of rice is rice dish is rice pudding.
That's pretty good. Yeah, and you know what rice is really good in? Boudin. It's great in Boudin. Hey, if you ever go to Searcy, you've got to go to the Cajun. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name now. CJ's Cajun Express, whatever. They were in Wynn the other day. Absolutely unbelievable food. Anything they make was incredible. But But Dudley, let people know how they can follow you, and look forward to having you on next week. And hopefully you can stay on longer with us.
Yeah, hogville.net is our website and message board covering all the sports there now. Even though it's July, there's plenty going on in terms of recruiting and in a lot of other things. And then Fearless Friday, which is the shirt I have on today, is the high school site. I've interviewed close to 25 coaches already this summer, doing stories on how their summer's gone so far, what their season looks like in terms of coming up. And then on Twitter, if you want to see me gripe about the St. Louis Cardinals, that's the place to go there. So.
And did you mention Tiger air conditioned helmets to any of those coaches?
Yes, I have, but they've had a dead period. They've been on vacation, so we're about to really get up with them in the terms of the air conditioning. As I said, there's a lot of them that say, "Oh, and then there are other ones if they get beat in the fourth quarter with somebody with an air conditioned helmet, they're going to want one. So
cooler heads will prevail.
That's true. All right,
see you, Dudley. Thank you so much. That is one of the good guys, man. Dudley Dawson out of Newport, Arkansas, Balch, Arkansas. Grew up in the Balch. If you don't know, Balch is a small farming community, a suburb of Newport, not too far from Grubbs. And I tell you what, they got the great food truck over there. And during duck season, I'm going to write a book one day, my favorite heat lamp food that I get. Okay. That when you're at, 5 o'clock in the morning, sausage biscuits, some of them are fossilized. They're so hard. They've been there a little bit too long, but, I'm going to write a book about my favorite heat lamp food during duck season. It's just special, man. Vince Ferrara going to be on with us in just a minute down in Tampa. He is driving right now. Said I'll do the audio connection with you before we go to video. But I think that Dudley's right about the growth of sports, college sports, and also these rivalries, Arkansas, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma. That's going to become, they're going to be playing. Remember, they don't play just football. There's basketball, there's baseball, gymnastics, swimming, track and field, you name it. We got it. Most schools in the SEC have probably 21 sports. So you're going to start seeing, the softball. Wow. You think the SEC is good in softball now? Why do you bring in Texas and Oklahoma? What have they won? 3 straight national championships in the Women's College World Series. Now, don't make the mistake of saying, women's softball. When I think of men's softball, I think of a bunch of guys with beer guts and, coach's shorts with a skull can in the right rear pocket, tube socks, and he's going yard. He ain't going to try to hit that ball down every time when they're in between Rhodes sodas. We don't want to have, we think about softball, we know in college, it's just women. There are no men on the women's softball teams yet. I mean, I hope they don't try that. But anyway, I think as we keep going, keep your eye, though, on Oklahoma and Texas. Watch what they do in recruiting. Any Big 12 coach will tell you, okay, point blank, out here, you got to watch the edge rushers. In the SEC, it's about the front seven, the 2 and 3 deep front sevens and the interior linemen, not just the edge rushers. So you're going to see a change in how Oklahoma and Texas recruit. I don't think Texas's last 5-star defensive lineman that they signed was in 2011, 2012. They're going to have to change that. With NIL, they certainly will have that opportunity. And I know in the past, Texas and Oklahoma have been pretty aggressive when it comes to recruiting. If you watch the 30 for 30 on Marcus Dupree, the Texas and Oklahoma coaches stayed at the Long Branch or Moss Molly's from Gunsmoke, whatever that old hotel was there in Philadelphia, Mississippi, for 3 months. So Vince Ferrara is on with us right now down in Tampa, and he went to the Rays in the Phillies game last night. Let's talk about it. I watched the Braves game. The Braves fans are like being around Alabama fans with Saban there. It's a dynasty, and it just keeps getting better. But Vince, is there hope for Tampa Bay? Tampa?
Yeah, good to be on with you guys as always. I missed I'm missing the Braves. The Braves start their series at the Rays on Friday, but I'm leaving very early Saturday morning. So, it's family day before I leave on that Friday. So, not able to see the Braves this weekend. It would be a lot different atmosphere. The Braves fans will be there. There's plenty down here in Florida as well. And that's the biggest fan base in Knoxville where I'm based. But look, I'll be honest with you, there were as many Philly fans as Rays fans, if not maybe more. And with them winning last night, they, had plenty to cheer for. I want to say 17, 18 hits when it was all said and done. I think the Rays, they're in a little bit of a downslide right now at the moment, but I think they'll be fine. Now, long term, I don't know that they've got the 1 through 9 lineup, and there might still be a pitcher away. So they're a really good team. They really didn't show off their power too much last night. I think the interesting thing was the stadium. It's been something that I have preached and talked about on my show for a long time. The Tampa Bay Rays won't win a championship and won't have sustained success until they move to Tampa and the Hillsborough County, where the biggest population base is for them. They have been squabbling over stadium proposals for 20 years. And, they have Tropicana Field, and God love them, they've tried to make the most of it, but you have a low, bad roof with catwalks, and balls end up in play. It's hard to see balls off the pop-ups in the air because of the white roof with a white baseball. For a long time, the turf looked horrible on TV and wasn't its best surface. They've improved that a little bit. It's okay, but it's not something that you win with. It's not an attraction, and it's not where a large portion of your fan base is. It's a shame. It was built before they ever got a stadium. The construction of it just was not the most intelligent. And then everyone else in Major League Baseball that needed new stadiums would leverage this area to get their baseball team. And it worked. Until they figure out a stadium where the fan base is in Hillsborough County in Tampa, they're going to struggle, and they're going to have crowds in the teens, and unless the Yankees or Red Sox are in town.
Yeah, it's a great point. I want to pick back up on that. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Vince Ferrara is on with Sports Animal in Knoxville. Rob Browne broadcasting from Atlanta. Thursday's Sidelines. Be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Vince Ferrara talking last night here watching the Braves game with Mallory and Tyler here. And Tyler said, I've been to games down there at that stadium, and I've been behind home plate having a conversation with somebody in center field. And I'm like, what? So the architectural, the layout and everything of that stadium, not really intimidating, it sounds like.
No, it's not. We actually, our seats were fine. We were down the right field line, and it was technically outfield seats at $25, and we had a fine view of the stadium. It wasn't anything bad, and there were plenty of good seats available too. We could have pushed the envelope and gotten a lot closer. So it's not intimidating. That's for sure. And look, the biggest thing, the most embarrassing thing is the fact that there's oftentimes more fans of the opponent than there is of the Rays. And it's not because they don't support baseball. It's because it's so hard to get to. It took us, and my parents, my mom's house is in West Tampa and not too far away from getting to the bay. And it took us with traffic an hour and 10 minutes to get there, to get inside the stadium after leaving. And it's 5:00 traffic crossing over the bridge to Pinellas County. And it's not the easiest to get to. Now, I'll give it one thing I'll say. Parking was only $10. Where do you hear that for any sort of sporting event? And that was like in the stadium parking lot. And the tickets were okay. They could be cheaper, but it was okay. So they're doing their best with it to try to get people in there. But man, I took a video of it. If you follow me on Twitter or check it out on my Twitter account at Vince Sports, you can see just a video 360 view inside there and what it looks like. It's a big structure that is not conducive to fan atmosphere, and the typical ballpark, and being inside also does not help either.
Well, yeah, and I'm looking here right now at some pictures of you at the game last night. Phillies with my longtime friend Joe Yahundra, and you put a video on there. You said on that site. Okay, I'll go back and find that, because and I just think you got a lot of transients down there too. I mean, in Atlanta, they're just now getting to the point where they've got majority Braves fans, but when they would play the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cubs, the White Sox, the Phillies, there's so many transplants now down in Atlanta, but they've been here so long, the kids have grown up Braves fans. And we have Chris Domino on the show a couple of times recently from 680 The Fan, a baseball. I've never seen anything like the guy. He's amazing, just genuinely nice, just wonderful. And he talks about his bag of souls, all the interviews. He goes, I grew up in Brooklyn. I've been here since 93. And, I got, the Mets got the series in 86. Turned in my Mets card. He goes, I'm a Braves fan. My friends from New York come down here now. I'm Braves. I mean, he does a show with Nick Cellini every day on 680. And you see it, we're 1 mile from the Battery where we are right now. And you go up there, they're not in town right now, but they designed that ballpark for the fan. And it's absolutely amazing what's going on. And isn't it funny, Vince? In college, we talk about the infrastructure, the core, the bricks. This stadium's 107 years old, and we brag about it. And we just do facelifts and architectural adjustments through time. But we talk about the history, the tradition, and the heroes. In professional sports, it's all now about how new the stadium is. But in college, you better have those amenities, but you want to keep the old edifice of the building, don't you?
You do, and it's actually a good segue if you want to get into the renovations at the stadiums in Knoxville with the Vols, Neyland Stadium, and also Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and they put out some renderings of what they're doing now, and how much more expensive it's going to be for those stadiums to get done. So it is important, and it's about fan experience when you're competing, unlike years past, for the entertainment dollar and time of your consumer. So it's a must to do. And Tampa Bay, that's just politics. Politicians from the two counties can't work together. It's kind of like commissioners from different conferences. They can't work together, or ADs from the same conference can't agree on stuff. That's what the reason why they can't figure out their stadium situation here in Tampa.
Yeah, well, you think about Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. There's a lot of people there, and you got the bridge coming over, fans coming from a wide area, and for example, compare that to what the Braves did. Used to be Atlanta Filthy County Stadium downtown. Then they had Turner Field, and they got smart. They moved up here to Cobb County. They hired Brassfield Gorey, and it was pretty funny to hear Miller Gorey of Brassfield Gorey Construction in Birmingham, which is, like they say, if you've ever been to a hospital or a school from Miami to Washington, D.C., over to Indianapolis, down to the Gulf Coast of New Orleans, you've probably been somewhere that Brassfield Gorey built. They built that stadium here, Truist Park, $675 million. But they were smart because they took into account the population, Cobb County and all like that. It's amazing. And by the way, I heard last night on the Buddy Martin show down in Gainesville, they were talking about a $400 million proposal. You probably heard about it, on the swamp. What are they going to do with the swamp? And boy, you talk about messing with history. That's like moving somebody's heart to the other side of their body. Got to be careful with that. Neyland Stadium, absolutely stunning. In just a couple of minutes, this crowd of some 105,000 will rise to their feet, and the giant Pride of the Southland band will come out and form a giant T. You can't – I'm an Auburn guy saying – I've grown up in Memphis, Vince. I'm listening to Brett Hubbs and John Wilkerson, Bob Kessling, John Ward, Bill Anderson. I'm an AM radio junkie, because when I want to know what's going on, I'll tell you why local radio and local TV and local newspaper and local coverage is so important. 33 years ago, we had satellites up in space, and George Herbert Walker Bush was president. And he said, well, we see from these satellite images in outer space, it looks like the Iraqi troops are amassed along the Kuwaiti border. But what we don't know until we get on the ground is what their intent is. If you want to know what's going on in Knoxville, you better have a Vince Ferrara. You better have a Jimmy Himes, Bob Kessling, and all. So I want to tell you, that's what I love about this show is we tap into all these local markets. Let's talk about Neyland Stadium. That is one of the most iconic stadiums in all of college football. And you're talking about the architectural renderings are coming out. And I texted my friend Yan Cowart and GMC Architects there, and he's in Montgomery, actually lives in Fairhope. They do, football stadiums, football-only complexes and stuff all over the country. Wow, that's going to be – let's talk about Knoxville. What do they want to do to it? Take some seats away, provide more amenities? I'm on a roll.
Well, they probably will lessen the capacity just a touch, but not by much. They'll still stay in. Ultimately, when it's all said and done, they'll still be in the over 100,000. So that was important to them, the bragging rights. I personally feel like, maybe I'm not a good businessman, that they should do an even more extensive spreading out of seats and rows and things like that. But that would multiply the almost $400 million price tag that's there. And for renovations, not a new stadium, for renovations, which was just bumped up, I think like 46 mil, something like that, from the previous price tag. And they got it cleared to be able to pay for more of those renovations. But they will. They've already enhanced it in little stages with a lot more to go. It's going to continue through 2026. So this is long term in the off season, because they're not going to lose any home games. They have a fan area, kind of like a modern pro sports deal, where fans want to go to games and socialize. They want to have concessions options. They want to be in the cool area and socialize and do those kind of things. They've already had one area like that. They're going to do more of it. Chair backs. There's so many bleachers at Neyland Stadium that you just have to come with the times and advance. And then just a lot of basic stuff: Wi-Fi, concessions, bathrooms, paint, for areas that were let go, there are many parts, there's several corners of Neyland that were just so let go that from an image standpoint, you just don't want out there, and you want the stadium to maintain as well some indoor opportunities. Just the fan experience is a big thing, and Neyland is going to accomplish a lot of those things. And then the entrance too, it's about perception. They're going to spice up some of the entrances to the outside of the stadium, give it a different look, help you. That kind of stuff will look good and resonate on TV when it's shown. That helps your school brand for football, for the university. And then all of this comes back to recruiting, when an updated stadium that's historic and has updated amenities, that's where you're really cooking rather than just the history. You want to be able to sell it to young people and fans and moms and dads. You want to be able to sell the modern in addition to the history, and Tennessee will be able to accomplish that when it's all said and done, just at a bigger price tag. But look, while it's hot, Rob, you got to do this stuff now while your team is rolling and people are willing and tripping over themselves to give you the money. And now's the time to ask for the money for the long-term health of the program.
Yeah. Well, just out of curiosity, being in the securities business, in addition to doing this show, and it's my 33rd year, I would love to be able to call folks on the phone if they do a bond issue for that $400 million project and say, hey, Vince, Rob Browne here, we've got some tax-free bonds, 4%, 5%, whatever they are, on University of Tennessee Neyland Stadium. They'd be revenue bonds. I don't know. Most likely they would be, but federal and state tax-free income for Tennessee residents. They're going to have to raise that money somewhere. I don't know. Typically, you get about $35 million, maybe $40 million a year in private fundraising, but you got to do it. Let's look at some numbers here. And I want to say this real quick. The segment brought to you by RumbleBoxingGym.com, 1835 Union Avenue, Midtown Memphis, corner of Union and McLean, across from Walgreens. Go there. It is a 45-minute workout. A prize fight, Vince, correct, is 15 3-minute rounds. If two big guys go the full 45, they're probably feel like they're going to be dead. You go into these workouts and Camp Lee. This is the first of 3 gyms. You've got great instructors in there, and you're doing jumping jacks, star jacks, dips, planks, push-ups, you name it. Then you're punching the bag. Then you're lifting dumbbells. RumbleBoxingGym.com. Check them out on our website. Damn proud to have them as a sponsor of Sidelines. We'll throw some numbers at you that Mark Ham, Audrey's cousin Mark, who's on our show a lot, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report's what I call him, has the biggest tailgate, he says, in Knoxville, right by the Torch guy. You know where that is, up by the entrance to the stadium. They cook brisket and stuff for 2 days in advance. I've got to get you over there. Mark's sitting there going, get Vince Ferrara to come with us before the game. We were up there before the Tennessee-Alabama game last year. My wife, Audrey, a Vol for life. And I found an old poster, by the way, Johnny Majors signed for her dad. And it's awesome. It says a full crowd at Neyland Stadium. And it's before they did the last big addition to the stadium. It's pretty cool. It was still, 87,000 at that time. We'll throw some numbers at you. In his first 2 seasons at this school, blank has won the Orange Bowl, 7 ranked wins over ranked opponents, produced the first Bolitnikoff winner in school history, signed the #1 player in America out of high school, and produced 10 NFL draft picks, 7 top 100 guys, a storybook start to his tenure. It's like one of those old game shows. This is your life. Who am I talking about?
Josh Heupel.
Damn right. That guy's runner-up for the Heisman Trophy in 2000, but he won the national championship as a player at Oklahoma. When was the last time, other than Lane Kiffin's 1 year and he had a hissy fit, and that's on him, when was the last time any coach has been at Tennessee for any amount of time, has left for another job at another school?
It hadn't happened. That's another reason why the Lane Kiffin thing stung so much, because you just don't leave that kind of job to go elsewhere, and dream job or not. And he still says that was. It doesn't happen at Tennessee. So yeah, it was certainly unique, and until Butch Jones came along, he was the most hated, but Butch Jones surpassed him during his tenure.
But that's a hell of an honor. I mean, but what I'm saying is you've got the 9th winningest program in the history of college football. You've got money, you've got rabid fan support. And, Vince, we keep hearing all these apocalyptic predictions by the negative people in the media. Interest in football is down. Well, I mean, I saw a story yesterday. Auburn has sold every season ticket they can get, and the student tickets are on sale. Those will all sell out. And this is Auburn in the midst of the worst 3-year cycle in the modern era of college football at Auburn. I mean, they're 17-19 in the last 3 years. So I think people, again, you can't get the experience of the Vol Walk. You can't get that experience of watching the band in person go out and form that giant T and that crowd go BSC before kickoff in Knoxville if you're not there. I think we need to be spending a hell of a lot more time on encouraging fans to get to the stadium, even if you don't have a ticket, and tailgate and be part of the experience than sitting on your ass at home watching it on TV. If having a cold beer is that big a deal, go get a good cooler, but go to the games.
Well, what's hurting. I think what people are leaning on and talking about college football being down is TV ratings. And I think TV ratings are down in everything right now. One, because there's so many more options, so your audience is spread out. Another thing is streaming. Streaming makes it difficult to find games, especially because not everyone, even though, yes, the world has gone to mobile phones and streaming and all of that with your watching things on your phones, but not everybody's that way. There's still a big chunk of the population that is old school, that wants to watch cable, wants to easily bounce from game to game, and it's hard to do that with streaming, and it's hard to find games. That was a big complaint during the baseball season. Is ESPN had everything. It has everything in their umbrella, baseball and softball. So you couldn't find where a lot of those games were, especially in the postseason. So you have to be savvy in terms of streaming, or have the patience to do it. And now you're going to see more of college football on the digital, on the pluses. So that's a part of it, in addition to just all the options. And you do have to help with the fan experience. And I think, Auburn is a great example. Tennessee is just set records. They met their goal of season tickets that they had for 6 years in year 2, just this year. And so they're building a waiting list, which hadn't been the case for so long at Tennessee. So you win and the fans will come, and sometimes the fans will come even if you don't win. You just have to show that you care, and with the money being spent, these SEC teams certainly care. And just from a baseball standpoint, real quick, the renovations to Lindsey Nelson Stadium they almost tripled. They went from, I think, 39 mil to like 96. So, but they were able to get those renovations approved budget wise, and have a plan and have renderings of it too. And again, a lot of it is just the visual, the entrance to the ballpark and different standing room only areas, and those fan amenities, in addition to, and I didn't mention this for Neyland, they're doing things for the players too. So that's part of the price tag, whether it's locker rooms or different sort of practice facilities and things like that. That's all part of the deal, because you got to take care of your players, and that pays off in recruiting. And Tony Vitello needs it big time. And, Josh Heupel will continue to utilize that to keep enhancing recruiting, which has gone really, really well.
Yeah. Well, think about this, being there's now, you go to a place like Neyland Stadium, Bryant Denny, Sanford Stadium, Jordan-Hare, there's 90 to 100,000 plus in the stadium, 40 or 50,000 outside tailgating. Okay. I remember the 1980 Tennessee-Alabama game. It rained, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, Charlie Daniels was the halftime entertainment. Alabama won that game 27-0, I believe. But I'm just saying, what would you, Vince, would you be interested if someone said Neyland Stadium, it's going to be crowded, parking's going to be expensive, but Led Zeppelin has agreed for John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page, and Robert Plant to get back together, and John Bonham Jr., his son, who's a pretty damn good drummer. I watched him a few times. If they're coming to Neyland Stadium, would you go? You wouldn't ask what the ticket price is. Well, we would, but it's one of those things where I'll starve myself to go to that concert. That's what college football is. We love it, and I'm not going to buy into this negative narrative.
Yeah, no, it's not there. It just depends. It's from the source of who it's coming from, and people do want to paint the picture that, you know, college athletics, with all the moves that they've made, that they're ruining the sport, and that's not the case. It's different. It's maybe not as romantic as it used to be, where you had the geography and things like that, and you could see the greed and moves being made based on money. But people are still going, just like during the pandemic and during all the social activism for the NFL, and people had the narrative of the doom and gloom and the end of the NFL, and they'll never recover from it. Well, the NFL has never been healthier, and they still print money. So great sports are not going away, and that includes college football.
Well, as my friend Joe Evangelisti said one time, the church, the Catholic Church being that, is always at its best when it's being persecuted the most. Think about college sports, the same vein. Vince, I absolutely love having you on. Jimmy Himes recommended you, and I would love to have both of y'all on at the same time. I would just watch. I would just listen. But thank you, because I know you're on vacation, and I'm so thankful for you always for taking time out of your day to join us. And it really means a lot. Have a safe trip, and let people know how they can follow you. And thank you for constantly putting stuff out on social media, because that's like a real-time newspaper.
It is where we do go. I can't remember, honestly, no disrespect to the newspaper industry. I can't remember the last time I just picked up a newspaper or read it. Although Jimmy Himes does. Jimmy Himes still does. He is old school in that way.
Yeah, right, he does.
I'd walk into his office and he's got it spread wide open and getting ready for his show. But Jimmy is great. And actually, I host the morning show 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 5 to 8 a.m. Central Sports Talk that Jimmy used to be on for many, many years. Did a great job. But now it's in mornings, and my partner, John Wilkerson, voice of Tennessee baseball, is on vacation next week. So I have guest co-host each week or every day. Jimmy Himes is my guest co-host, pulled out of retirement for Thursday and Friday. So if anyone wants to check that out, you can go to the WNML mobile app and listen to us. Also 991thesportsanimal.com to stream it, or you can find our podcast later on the website in the podcast tab. So yeah, we'll have fun. Jay Graham, Tennessee great. It will be my Tuesday co-host. He's my partner for high school football as a color analyst. Then Jesse Smithy, who covers prep sports like nobody else, on Wednesday. Ryan Callahan from Go Vols 24/7 on Monday. So we're going to have it all covered and have a fun week next week while John is on vacay. And then it's SEC football media days in Nashville. So I'll be out there, and hopefully you'll either be there or glad to there. All right. Very good.
Looking. I've got that app on my phone. My wife Audrey says I cool off when I think about Knoxville, because we live in Memphis in the Delta. It's 170 every day. But anyway, thanks so much. Looking forward to next week. Have a safe trip.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks, Rob.
You bet. All right. Let's bring in the AD angle, John Hartwell, down in Monroe, Louisiana, and also Matt Dean in Memphis, where it's 165 in the shade with the wind chill today. We're in Atlanta. The air conditioning went out over at the house Thursday night, and we went up to the Spring River Saturday morning, 57 degrees, gentlemen, a lot cooler. Caught 119 rainbow trout, a lot of fun. Threw back a lot of them, only kept the legal limit, of course, 5 each. But we're over in Atlanta right now, checking on Mallory and Tyler and the granddaughter Chandler, and I'm in the temporary studios here. That picture you see in the background is pretty cool. Back in August of 2019, we stayed out at Crooked Oaks Ranch there in Notasulga. That's about 17 miles from Jordan Hare Stadium. That was Coach Dye's ranch out there, 700 acre, beautiful. And Mallory came down, and Tyler and Audrey and I, my son, needed me to bring him some furniture down to Auburn. And I said, okay, I'll go. So I went down there, and we stayed out there for like 3 nights and got Coach Dye to sign. It's a picture of him and Coach Bryant walking with their pump, look like probably Ithaca pump shotguns. And they're walking down the trail on a famous rabbit hunt that was in February of 1982 when they got together after their first season together. And he signed it to Mallory, put on their War Eagle roll tide. Of course, Mallory went to Alabama. God love her. But anyway, we're at the temporary studios right now. And gentlemen, we've been talking about the business side of sports. Last night, I'm watching the Buddy Martin show, our good friend Buddy Martin, and Buddy reached out to me and said, hey, man, I'd love to be back on if you'll still have me. I said, absolutely. And, you know, his wife passed away June 15th, and 61 years of marriage. And Buddy has been so generous with his time on this show. You cannot do this alone. It takes a lot of people to make something work, and we're blessed to have him. He'll be back on Saturday. But on their show last night, they were talking about a potential facelift in Gainesville to the Swamp, around $400 million. And y'all understand the numbers. I don't know if that's going to be a bond issue. We just mentioned it with Vince Ferrara in Knoxville, a big, maybe $350 to $400 million job up at Neyland Stadium. And I texted my friend Yan Cowart, who was on with us last night, who's with GMC Architecture. And he was on last week talking about what they've done at Auburn in the arms race in college athletics. So where I'm going with this, I've had coffee, I've had cranberry juice, I've been exercising, I'm bouncing off the walls. Y'all kind of rein me in because I've got 2 smart guys. One of them's a CPA. So is that going to be a bond issue? You're certainly not going to go ask for $400 million. Wouldn't you float like a 20 or 30-year municipal bond issue of public finance debt? Wouldn't that be the way to go, John?
You would think that there's probably some revenue bonds, you know, involved in it with the security being future revenues from ticket sales. But
yeah,
at that magnitude, I'm sure there are premium seating areas that will probably have, agreements, long-term 5-10-year agreements that help finance some of it too. So that, that's a pretty aggressive endeavor there, especially in today's world. The world of college athletics is not insulated from the rest of the business world when you look at interest rates and everything else out there. So I would assume that they're going to try to finance as little of that facility as they can based on today's market with interest rates. But that's pretty ambitious. Well, I was listening about concerts out there, possibly in Neyland Stadium and looking at the business side, although this is, a little more in the arts world and the music world than anything else, that's something I'm working on. We've got 3 pretty significant names, all on the country side of things, all within a stone's throw of here in Monroe. You've got Dylan Scott, kind of an up-and-coming country artist from the booming metropolis of Bastrop, which is about 20 miles north.
I know where that is. I've been there.
Yeah, there's a really good sporting goods store there that actually is in the always in the annual top 5 of firearm sales in all of continental U.S., which is amazing for a small community like Bastrop. But hey, we may have to get them on as a corporate sponsor.
Yeah, that's not Grits Grissom's place, is it?
Simmons Hardware. Simmons is what it is. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So
listen, I'm fascinated by that stuff. Matt, you hear what he's saying? You're going to have concerts, and that is a great. I was just talking about. I think I remember Charlie Daniels' band playing halftime of the 1980 Tennessee-Alabama game in the rain in Neyland Stadium. Alabama won 27-0, but that halftime show is still. You can find it on YouTube. It's out there in the stratosphere forever.
It's a great business model, and honestly, pro teams have been doing it forever. So why not college teams? And honestly, what's interesting about this discussion too, from my perspective, is I'm old enough to remember when 20, 30 years ago, a lot of these people had their first facility lifts, right? And now, we're talking about the next one. It's such a facility arms race because there's so many layers to this. If you want to be able to recruit you got to have premier facilities, and not just on the field for your season ticket holders and the amount of premium seating you can provide in the suite boxes. I mean, that's probably where a lot of the money is being made, John, I'm guessing, on a projection level for 10, 15 years out, is some of these suites they're selling too.
Yeah. Obviously, the premium seating areas are going to be the engine that drives the train, because when you look at, a per seat cost, your general admission or your in zone fans, which again, most fan bases, you can't drive those people out of the stadium because they represent the bread and butter of your fan base. Some of those have been long-term season ticket holders. And oh, by the way, Development 101, you're only you can say the lottery, but you're only one opportunity away from $1,000 donor being $1 million donor. And if you don't really want to piss off the $1,000 donor in the event that they become that. But so Dylan Scott, let me just finish that thought process real quick. The other two, a little more mainstream. Again, another one, a rising star, Lainey Wilson. From the booming metropolis of Baskin, Louisiana, which is a suburb of Winsboro to the east of here in Monroe. And then the third guy, a few folks may have heard of, Tim McGraw. From Start, Louisiana. Kind of a suburb of Rayville, Louisiana. Tim McGraw was actually here for 2 years and played baseball back when it was called Northeast Louisiana. So trying to pull those three artists together, and I promise you, the 35,000 seats we have here in Malone Stadium, we could fill up if we can pull off that coup.
Let me ask you now, are you talking about all on one day or on 3 separate weekends?
Potentially looking at it, having at least 2 of them on a weekend. Actually, Tim McGraw used to do an annual event in Rayville called the Swamp Fest. He did it up until about 2018, but we've got some feelers out to them to try to get all 3 of those involved back in their quote hometown or home area institution. So
do you all have Stein Home and Garden stores there in Monroe?
We don't.
Okay, they're out of DeRidder, Lake Charles. There's like 14 in the state. Well, I think this is huge. Hey, bring any of those 3, any of those 3 or all 3 on this show. Love to talk. You are doing things. You're thinking outside the box. I was talking with Jay Evers last night. He said, I've been trying to get a hold of John Hartwell the last couple of weeks.
He and I have been going back and forth this morning.
And I said, and he goes, I said, well, wait a minute. I said, John, I said, he's busier than a one-legged man in a kick fight, but I'm telling you, he will get back. And he goes, does he still have this old Utah? I said, no. Let me check. I said, you've been calling the wrong number. He goes, that explains it. And Jay, I love him. I mean, and I said, John you'll get back. So good. But
I'm gonna have to catch up. I'm actually going to be in Birmingham next week. A couple of Russ Campbell and Patrick Strong, 2 guys that are in the agent business. I'm going up there Wednesday night and Thursday of next week to do help out some aspiring coaches and coordinators in the world of college football and basketball. They do this one-day symposium with a handful of ADs and do some mock interviews and stuff like that. So I'll have to give Jay a call and see if we can't have a cup of coffee Thursday morning.
Well, Miss Rubin's rubs, man, the black magic, the white magic, the Creole magic, the seafood magic, they're unbelievable. From the old Penny Profit Market in Montgomery since 1935. And he's one of our sponsors. He's going to be one of our sponsors for SEC Media Days. And I'm telling you, go to your grocer, ask them if they have Miss Rubin's rubs. If they don't, say, please order them and get everybody to do it, and they'll order them. You can put that stuff on anything, a stick included, and it'll make it taste better. Matt, you heard what John's doing. ADs have a lot of power, a lot of influence. And what John's doing is he's sharing. He's going out and helping people, talking about interviewing, how to get these jobs and everything like that. What do people not understand about the coaching and the athletic director fraternity that you can tell them that'll make them go, wow? As Johnny Carson would often say on the Tonight Show, I did not know that.
Well, way to hit me with that one, Rob. I didn't see that one. That wasn't on the question list.
You never know, man. A lot of coffee.
But I do think people would be surprised of how friendly we are. We compete hard. We want to beat each other's brains in on the field. But, when we get to conventions, we put on our pants the same way. And quite frankly, I think what's really been neat for me in my entire coaching career, then going to administrative career, is just how the mindset is a little different. And it helps me as a former coach becoming an AD, because there's so many different personalities that you have to deal with as an athletic director. You talk about some ego management. I'm going to tell you what, because a lot of these coaches do really well, do great things. They win a lot of games. They win national championships. But at the end of the day, someone's got to reel that in a little bit. And as an athletic director, I have a lot of respect for John and his career. You got to be able to deal with personalities. And sometimes it's about calling up a colleague of yours that managed that coach in a setting before you got to that person, right? And like, hey, I'm having some of this, John. What do you think would help with this person? Because, listen, as a former coach, I'm going to push the envelope. I'm going to tell my AD, we need this, this, and this to win a championship. And then here's the thing. If you give me this, this, and this, you better produce. I mean, it's kind of a results-driven business.
Yeah, John, tell him about, I'm going to ask you, when you got to ULM, it's like, you've just parachuted in from outer space. You don't know anybody there. You got to learn the lay of the land. That's a tough job.
Yeah, it is. And I learned maybe it's multiple stops in this business. Maybe it's just human nature. What you've got to try to avoid anytime you go into a new situation is avoid. You've got to listen to it and tuck it away, but don't go all in on other people's perceptions, because when somebody says, oh, well, this coach isn't good, or they won't listen, or they're not doing this or that. And again, it's the same way in corporate America too. It may be because they did not have good direction, they didn't have good leadership before. It may be a lack of communication. There's a whole plethora of things that can cause that. Now, your end analysis may be the same, but don't go in with preconceived notions. And I think that's why it's so important to give it, probably a 90-day window to look and make your own judgments and set expectations. And, a leopard doesn't change his spots. I know that's an old saying, but the truth will come through over a period of time. So don't walk in the door and say, oh, well, I heard this about this person, I heard this about that person. Because a lot of times you may throw the baby out with the bathwater if you do that. And you need to take time to analyze, to set expectations. Can they meet those expectations? What's the skill set? Maybe there's a strong skill set there and they're just in the wrong position. So I think that's really important. And coaches are no different. And, Matt makes a great point. I promise you, 98% of the football coaches out there think that Nick Saban has anything and everything that he needs at his disposal to be successful.
Yeah.
But I promise you, on a periodic basis, he goes into Greg Byrne and says, hey, Ohio State has this, Florida has this, Southern Cal has this, I need this. And you know what? As an AD, you can't say, well, gosh, he's just a pain in the ass. Get out of my office. You need to listen to those things and decipher, what's important, what's not. Because I would a whole lot rather have to pull the reins back on a coach than prod him in the ass to get going.
Yeah. 100%.
No,
I don't know if it was appropriate for me to make.
No, that's a right term. I mean, look, in the vernacular, I mean, that's the only way to say it. Okay. I totally agree with you, because you talk about, that's a stock market term about when the market's falling dramatic, 500-point drop. People are throwing out the babies with the bathwater. We use that all the time. It's always darkest before dawn. That's when, you're near a bottom. He's like, doesn't make sense. Why is everybody selling? But the other one is zebras don't change their stripes, just their watering holes. That's the thing about people. And that is so true. And John, you've been there on the job now 90 days or close to it?
Little over 4 months. So, yeah.
What was your first official day on the job?
February 27th. So,
holy
yeah.
cow. I didn't. Okay.
Hey,
so,
and along those lines, Rob, before I forget this, Matt mentioned this last week about, hiring a very successful basketball coach.
Yeah.
Knowing that, hey, maybe this coming year, somebody may come to get him. And people say, oh, well, gosh, that's terrible. You got turnover. I promise you, I'd a whole lot rather have success followed by turnover, because somebody is going to a bigger, better opportunity that makes sense for them from a professional, from a family, from a financial standpoint, than to have to be mired in mediocrity and have to make a change after a period of time because they're not being successful. I think, whether you're at ULM and, at a group of 5 institution, or you're at Rhodes, you want to have those up and comers, those people who are successful, have ambition, because if they've got ambition and maybe they desire something bigger at some point, they're going to bust their ass every day to be successful, to give themselves that opportunity. And that makes your program better. And some people don't understand that, say, oh, well, gosh, you've got to make hiring decisions. That's part of the job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, along that line, look at the programs. What Dean Smith used to say, I'd rather have a guy come and give me a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, than none at all. And you know what? When you bring in those kind of players that are getting drafted in the top 5, top 10, first round in the NBA, for instance, with basketball, it begets getting more of those kinds of players. Nothing succeeds like success, and people want to be a part of it. Your background, both of y'all, see, Matt, having coached 16 years as a head coach, I guess the next question is, how many times do you hear coaches, and you've done it, Matt, say, golly, I didn't realize until I became a head coach how little I get to actually coach and how much I miss actually coaching. How do they work that out, that delicate balance, to where they can handle all the administrative stuff and be a head coach? Do they hire an administrative assistant that handles all the details like Miss Hathaway?
Well, bottom line, I think the great head coaches have great staffs.
Yeah.
I really believe that. And then to John's point, and this is a good thing, when I hire a great assistant, it's a good thing if we win in 2 or 3 years, he or she moves on, then takes a head job. I have currently right now 3 or 4 of my former assistants that are head coaches. Jennifer Sullivan, I'm very proud of, at Florida Atlantic University. Sam Davidson, Division II Converse. Greta Gritty was at Southwestern. And Lauren Avant, who's now Lauren Sumsky at Lipscomb. So, for me, I want to make sure I do everything in my power to support their career advancement. That's number one. Number two is, I want to make sure I have a supportive AD that allows me a good replacement model. And when you have that working combination, honestly, you're going to be successful. And for me, I've been blessed to have great staff that help me get great players, and we have results on the floor, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and John, let me ask you this now. Do you have controllers, like a controller, comptroller, whatever they're on the staff with you? And then with your background, it's kind of like if somebody's an AD, years ago, 40 years ago, Coach Bryant became AD because it was extra money. But we know Sam Bailey really ran the day-to-day operations, because my dad actually worked with him, and he did the Sam Bailey track and field complex at Alabama and the tennis complex. But Coach Bryant was in name, and he would sit there and look over at Mr. Sam, my dad said, and go, growl, and he would do it. But think about Pat Dye. He was AD at Auburn. He brought in a guy from Tulane named Hyman Wall. And Mr. Hyman Wall knew how to crunch numbers. I mean, he was really good. Terry Drinker. Scott Strickland was over there at Auburn in that program. John, what a blessing it is. God dang it. First off, you're getting to meet Uncle Si, Phil Robertson, the Duck Commander people. You've got a great, I'm not saying the people that were there before you, weren't good, but I didn't know when you left Utah State, would you go in and be consulting? Would you do that? And I was telling people, I said, somebody's going to grab him. I mean, and he's not going to be able to say no, but how much fun is it to take on a challenge like this? I like what Butch Thompson said during baseball season. He goes, next weekend we got to go and play on the road in Columbia at number 2 South Carolina. We come home the next week against LSU, number 1. And he paused and he goes, I look at this and I tell our coaches and our guys on our team, this is a great opportunity for us to advance our program and to get these wins. And I thrive on this stuff, man. I love this stuff. I can tell you personally, I wake up in the morning. It's going to be a great day. I get so excited. Monday morning is my favorite day of the week. You come in there to ULM. They made that announcement. You had your whole family there. You're 83 miles away from where your wife's family's from, over in El Dorado, Arkansas, home of Murphy Oil and the Murphy Promise. You got to be loving this. You got to be doing backflips, man, because this is a challenge, and they hired you. And what a compliment that is to you. Yeah, it is.
I'm a glass half full guy, as you guys have heard me say, and there are some opportunities along the way. I won't call them obstacles, but the big picture is there is a ton of potential here. I mean, a lot of people get fooled that say, "Oh, well, you're in North Louisiana. You're away from the metropolitan areas of Baton Rouge or New Orleans. There's not much, economic opportunity there." I'll tell you this: in Northeast Louisiana, there are a lot of folks that have put a lot of green in their pocket. Some through cotton, some through
rice.
Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines have early starts here. Chase Home Mortgage, their whole home mortgage division is here. So there's a lot of opportunity, and you may say, well, how does that equate to success in athletics? Clearly, there's a correlation between investment in and success output.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of the people here, no disrespect to your guy, Frank Duffy, who I'm sure is out there listening. They love the Tigers. They love the purple and gold. I think there's some that still may be avoiding that hangover post College World Series win. They wake up in the morning. I may have a hangover one day, but it ain't gonna be today. Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah.
But if there are a lot of LSU folks here in this area, obviously, and understood, but my pitch to them is, hey, if you've got an economic interest in Northeast Louisiana, whether it's Monroe, West Monroe, Bastrop, Rayville, Winsboro, any of those places surrounding, the success of ULM athletics is going to help raise the economic profile, and everybody wins out of that. And, people have been very receptive to that. So we're excited about that. Obviously, that's got to translate into success on the fields of play, and we'll see. I'm excited about September 2nd and the Army Knights coming to town.
Yeah, well, you think about it. I remember being Touchdown Club in Memphis when Patrick Fain died of Blythe, Georgia, spoke in October of '94 when he said he got up there and about 250 people. It was packed out there at Holiday Inn, 240 in Poplar, and he said, "How many Ole Miss fans we got in the room? I mean, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi State." Man, he goes, "How many Memphis fans we got?" And he goes, "All right." He goes, "I see Mama over there. I see a bunch." All right. He goes, "Well, let me tell you something. Every damn one of you need to be a Tiger fan. If you live and work in Memphis, in this area, you need to support University of Memphis." He goes, "When I was at East Carolina, I went over there after being on Coach Bryant's staff for 9 years. I went to Greenville, North Carolina, and I didn't know, anything about it. I knew how to work. And I got people on board, and we went 48-18-1, and we went on the road. We were beating North Carolina. We were beating NC State, Wake Forest. We beating all of them. And all of a sudden, we had a lot of Pirate fans. And think about that. They ain't ever looked back. What you can do at ULM, you're right. Whether you may be an LSU fan, but I know a lot of people in Memphis that did not graduate from the University of Memphis. They went to school at, you name the school, or Rhodes. They didn't go to Rhodes, but they financially support those schools because it's good for the economy. It's good for everything when the local universities are strong. You think there's any money in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? Yeah, there's 51 colleges and universities. And by the way, you didn't mention Rice. Now, I live in Memphis, but we're in Parkin a lot. Rice right now is like 14. It may get up to $18 a bushel. And thanks for these agricultural extension stations out there everywhere. Tip to the colleges of agriculture. And I don't know if you know the people yet at the College of Agriculture at ULM, but they're out there doing, working on these seeds. Some of these places like Cross County, Arkansas, they're going to get 280 bushels an acre. At $14, if you got 1,000 acres of rice, that's, do the math, do the gazindas, $3,920,000 on 1,000 acres. Farmers got 10,000 acres of rice. That's close to $40 million. I mean, Mr. Haney would sell you a lot of trinkets for that. But think about all those farmers that you can reach to and all those people like that. That's what I think. Matt, you know it at Rhodes. You get gifts from people that didn't go to school there. They just go, you know what? We had a neighbor of ours and they had 3 kids and they were just such nice kids and they went to Rhodes or blah, 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 or ULM. I'm going to make a gift in their name. Our foundation is going to do it. And John, when you talk to people at age 72 now, they got to make their RMD, required minimum distribution. I had a client of mine tell me this 5 years ago, but gave me one of my best ideas. He said, instead of me getting that RMD and having to take it out of my IRA and pay taxes on it, I can make a direct contribution from my IRA to my charity, to my college of choice, and 100% of the money goes to them without getting whacked on the tax side and losing up to a third of the value. I'm sure you, as the CPA, have been thinking about that. I mean, think how many people that are 72 or older in the state of Louisiana or anywhere that went to ULM or Matt at Rhodes that can make direct gifts to you and not pay taxes on it. It goes directly from their IRA. I mean, there's so many ways to raise money, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to be creative about it, and obviously a lot of people want the tax credit for it. But at the same time, just like we talked about the recent IRS ruling, basically eliminating the 501c3 or the tax exempt status of these collectives, you've got people at all ends of the spectrum. You probably got donors out there, especially at larger institutions, who they've blown so far past their annual charitable donation limit that the tax deductibility as an individual is not really important to them. But you've got to be flexible and like we say all the time, think outside the box, because there are 100 different ways to get people to support your athletic department.
Yeah. And bottom line, there's money everywhere. You just got to ask for the order. If you could be a fly on the wallpaper in most salesmen's office, you'd realize that 80% of them are not asking for the order. They're just glad to get off the phone. All right, got to get into some sports stuff on outside of the business part for both of y'all. You look at what's going on. ESPN made another round of layoffs. Okay, they're paying a lot of the top talent ridiculous amounts of money, and they're putting out all these shows, and they've got all these high paid personalities, but where is anybody in the NCAA standing up for women's sports? Matt, I'll start with you, because if getting that kind of money to be a TV personality or media personality and you can't speak your heart, what you believe in, compromise, we're all 3 married. I mean, but for the most part, compromise is the victory of cowards. Is it worth giving up who you are, your core values and principles on all levels to not stand up? When we had Riley Gaines on the show about a month ago, I'm telling you, man, that girl gets it. She's going to UT Dental School in Memphis. She's going to be a great dentist. She's been swimming training since she was 4 years old. And when she's 22 years old, she ties a man who says he's a woman, and they tell her, shut up, deal with it. We got to have the photo op. I mean, we need people to stand up for. You coached women's sports. I got 2 boys, 2 girls. I mean, John will tell you, y'all are you care just as much about the women's sports as the men. Now, we know some make more money than others, but Matt, people got to start speaking their mind.
I'm a huge advocate for women's sports. I know John is as well. And quite frankly, I've been, since you had Riley Gaines on the show, I've been kind of following her on other platforms, and I'm very proud of her because she has stood up for the women's athlete in our country. And I watched her again this morning talk about a couple things in regards to the season that went through and the NCAA tournament. Now, we have a ton of women role models out there. In the state of Iowa, where I'm from, at the John Deere Classic yesterday, Caitlin Clark was playing in the Pro-Am. Okay, and normally when you're talking about a pro golf tournament, or I've actually caddied in the John Deere Pro-Am before back in the day, and the crowd was all around watching Caitlin Clark hit a golf ball. Every time she would hit a golf ball, she'd walk down the fairway, and then by the ropes, she would sign autographs. Cool. And then Zach Johnson was her playing partner. I'll give you an interesting Matt Dean story. Earlier in my career, I coached women's golf at Rhodes College. Actually, we won the first conference championship at Rhodes when I started the program, or helped start the program back in the mid-'90s. My former boss was at Drake. He wanted me to come back to Drake. He was going to hire me as golf coach. Well, you know who would have been a freshman on that team? Zach Johnson, who went to my alma mater, Drake. Good thing I didn't get the job. I'd have screwed Zach up. So long story short, you got Zach Johnson and Caitlin Clark at a media press conference, and just really positive energy. So
yeah,
I think we're missing the point here. Every AD in America is a huge advocate for women's sports. I think we're in a situation, and John, I don't want to make this too tricky. At some point, we need to have a third category for championships. I'm not saying we're ready there yet.
Yeah,
I mean, we want to make sure if there is a trans category, that be represented. But right now, it's kind of really it's a gray area what we got going on, John. Maybe you know more about it than I do. So
yeah, and I think you make a great point there, Matt. And one of the bases for the NCAA back from the beginning, go way beyond, go back to the beginning of time, the Olympics and things, is competitive equality. And again, if you're hormonally different or anything else, and I don't proclaim to be a doctor by any means, but
neither do I.
If somebody has an unfair disadvantage because of their genetic makeup, then yes, you're right. It may be a third category at some point, but right now it's male and female.
Right.
And I think we're recreating the wheel for a very small segment. And I think the tail is wagging the dog on that. Let me shift gears totally, because this is a very positive byproduct. And this is a story kind of breaking here within the last, 12 hours or so. But Olivia Dunn, the LSU gymnast, who there was a recent article came out, said she got $500,000 for one social media post. That's a hell of a gig if you
yeah, hell yeah it is.
College athletics is strong.
Yeah,
damn right.
And obviously her total deals are well into seven figures. But she announced this morning that she is starting the Livy Fund. That's partnering with Bayou Traditions to connect female student athletes at LSU with top brands to secure NIL deals. So here is something very positive. I'm sure she's caught some flack from people about, hey, you have all these deals. And so now she's trying to help facilitate some NIL deals for other student athletes on her campus. So I applaud her for doing that, and hopefully we'll see more opportunities for female student athletes, because the numbers don't lie. The total amount of dollars that's out there, I think it's about 97% to 3% have gone male to female student athletes. I saw some figures out a couple of days ago at Texas A&M. I think they distributed almost $8.6 million in the fiscal year, or their collectives distributed that. in the fiscal year that ended June 30th in NIL deals.
Wow.
And only, I think it was less than 200,000 of that was to female student athletes. So there's a pretty significant disparity there. And as I've said for months, while it's going to be more difficult for Title IX to be applied because those funds are not flowing through the university, they're not controlled by the university. At some point, Title IX is going to come into play as it relates to name, image, and likeness dollars.
Well, along the lines of what you're saying, it's the Olivia Dunn. David Schultz was on from down in Lafayette or Lafitte. We had that big discussion. Lafayette, locked on Sunbelt, and Dave was on yesterday, and he said, Olivia Dunn's a great gymnast, but not sure if she's the best gymnast on that LSU team, but she's certainly marketable, and I think it's great what she's doing. And you know what? Again, I'm a right-wing capitalist. I'm not against people making money. I guess the idea, having two boys and two girls that aren't, they're 23 to 34, my stomach just turns and I want to throw up at the thought, would you give an 18 or a 19-year-old 800,000 or $1 million on NIL? If you did, I would say, listen, you're my son, you're my daughter, you're 17, you're not an adult. Let's put that in an age-banded trust or an incentive-based trust. Then I'm okay with it. I just don't like the fact and the thought of some 18-year-old kid driving up in an Aston Martin or a Lamborghini to practice and saying, well, the coach is making $8 million a year. Damn right he is. But he started out making – I talked to a football coach yesterday. He said, my first job coaching high school football in the state of Alabama, by God, I made $7,150 a year, and I was teaching chemistry and physics and coaching football. He goes, and I said, yeah, see, so when they try to say, you got to pay your dues, okay? And I'm not saying deny people the right to make money. That is never going to float, not in America. We're the freest country in the world. The coach has got to be the one that's in charge. I don't care what the coach is. If they want to leave and go from one job to another, they are adults. Your brain doesn't fully develop till it's 25. And there are more than one or two people out there I know that are 25 plus 30, 40 years old whose brain has never fully developed. They're called living brain donors. We got to have – you're not going to win that argument. But 97% of the money is going toward male athletes. And you know what? If you got a daughter and she's marketable, you want her to get everything she can. I know John Hartwell, if you had a kid that was 18 years old or Matt, as smart as both of y'all are, y'all would both be going, Rob, can you hook me up with that attorney to do? The thought, because no one does that I know. Nobody gives money to their 18-year-old kids. They might give them, a little spending money every month. And everybody ought to walk around with a little bit of, walking around money like Uncle Jed walked around with that big wad on the Beverly Hillbillies. But, you make people hungry. I've been in the commission business since May of 91. I eat what I kill. If I don't work, I don't eat, or I don't eat well. But I think this is interesting what y'all are both saying. 97% is to the males, and A&M. So are those figures, guys, all for public viewing on what is doled out by the collectives at their respective colleges and universities around the country? I didn't know they were public. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if it is. I'll forward you guys this. I'll try to find that article I was reading the other day. But it was 8.6 something million. When you get to that much, that's a chunk of change going to student athletes. Well, you can read those stories every day. I was reading one, Mark Wahlberg's Chevrolet dealership in Columbus, Ohio. They've given Kyle McCord, quarterback there, who is one of three guys vying for the job. He is going to be driving a, let me get this right, 2023 Mercedes-Benz AMG GT 53. Again, that's probably a $175,000 to $200,000 car that, again, you're giving to young guy on a college campus, and that's. I hope
that's
they
trouble.
got the insurance paid up on that thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's my whole point. Is that again, you can't say we're old school. We're not. With age typically comes wisdom. I mean, Matt Dean, you think about it. When we were growing up, most people were driving a car stuck together with duct tape and Gorilla Glue. I mean, that's just what we did. And the thought of some kid that is Kyle McCord is the projected starter at Ohio State, but he ain't done a damn thing yet. Okay. And it's just like the children of really wealthy people. You go, what has that guy ever done? And go, don't worry, he's a member of the LSC, a Lucky Sperm Club. Okay. Born on third base and thinks he hit a triple. Okay. I love people like that. Eat them for lunch. Okay. Make them work. I just think it's a disaster. And the free market, Matt Dean, will correct it. Tyler's on the staff at Oregon. He's only 27 years old. So get ready for Tyler Dean. And your other son's in FA. He's going to do great. But Tyler's going to be coaching with Dan Lanning. And he's aspiring to be a position coach, I'm sure. And every head coach I've ever talked to said if every assistant on my staff doesn't have as his long-term goal to be a head coach, I'm not hiring him.
Well, I think what's interesting, we all talk about head coaches' salaries in Power 5, right? What I've learned with my son now in his 6th season, he's actually just turned 28 in April, Rob, so he's another year older. But what I've learned is the incredible amount of resources and money they spend on coordinators, chief of staffs, position coaches, heck, for that matter, John, analysts, right? You can make a 6-figure salary in certain places as an analyst these days. So I think what has happened is all this stuff is added up, and now we throw in the NIL deals, right? So my question is, at what point, John, with that number you presented, which is startling, I'm talking about the lack of balance in the male-female number on NLI collectives, when is this going to become an issue that's kind of talked about more frequently amongst certain groups, right? I think that's got to be coming. I think maybe that's some of the things that Mr. Baker is trying to maybe look into as the new president of the NCAA, because I'm going to tell you something. You look at some of these things. We talk about the Riley Gaines situation. We talk about the disparity in NLI money. I'm thrilled for Liv Dunn. Now, if I'm one of her teammates, I'm like, where's mine? I mean, that's where it starts, right? And as healthy as our sports are right now, this is a dangerous road, in my opinion.
It is. John, these facts, these figures that you just gave, just got a text from one of our listeners. Let's see who is, let me read the name here. Artemis Pyle says Fred Smith is the largest single donor to the University of Memphis, and he's a Yale alum. Okay. Ain't many people like Fred Smith. Generosity, civic pride, FedEx. Could you imagine Memphis without FedEx? It'd be like going, welcome to the state of Florida. We have closed all the beaches. They're gone. I mean, FedEx, it's unbelievable what they've done. But there's people like that. That's what I would say. Dr. Hardgrave came from Auburn back April 1st of 2022, new president in Memphis. Matt, I can imagine you were John as the AD at the University of Memphis, a place like that, in a city of ADI of 1.2 million people. But man, I tell you what, I would want both of y'all to be commissioner. And I don't like the term czar. I think of architects' eyeballs being burned out with hot copper coins after they designed the great palaces in St. Petersburg and Moscow and Kiev or whatever. Americans, we don't use the term czar. A commissioner, like Commissioner Gordon on Batman, okay? But one of y'all, both of y'all, would be an incredible commissioner. We talked to Rick Neuheisel. He said he'd like to do it. But we need leadership. Y'all take all this complex minutia and put it in the vernacular with relative ease. I mean, I don't know if it's intimidating for a coach to come in here and talk to either one of you because you're smart. just like when people say offensive linemen are dumb, I'm like, are you out of your mind? They got a playbook about that thick of all the stuff they got to do and all these RPO and hurry up no huddle offenses. We need leadership. I've learned more about obviously the disparity in what men and women are getting in NIL than I ever knew in my life. Again, it's not, I want the men to get it all. Look, we all got moms and sisters and wives and girlfriends and daughters and aunts and nieces. Good God. 97%, John. I mean, where do we go from here? I mean, what Olivia Dunn, where's Olivia Dunn from? Is she a Louisiana native?
I'm not even sure, but you're right. I mean, and you look at, at some point, I think you're going to see an analysis of consumer buying prowess, because there's obviously, and I'll speak for my own household. My wife's not listening, but I'd say it if she were sitting here. I promise you, a whole lot more than 3% of the dollars that we have to spend in our house are coming from her. It's probably closer. That's probably the inverse is closer to truth than 97% me and 3% Heather. It's probably closer to the other side, especially as we've got a home remodeling going on here in Monroe. So, but I do think something's got to be done with that. But again, it's Title IX per se, as these collectives exist right now and NIL exists right now. It's not flowing through the institution, so it really does not apply. But I think it's going to continue to get closer scrutiny, and I think you're going to have to see, just like we see in some of the extreme numbers in some of these NIL deals, I think you're going to have to see some market correction or whether it's congressional correction, some type of correction in them.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's another one that I'm curious for you, Matt, talking about on these endorsements. And with the female, male, we know the numbers on there. Wow. You get somebody that is a, sharp athlete. And I think it's going to make people more focused and more dedicated to their sport and doing things the right way, because both of y'all know, and everybody listening in the free world that has 1 ear, 2 ears, or half an ear, that you better do it right or you're unmarketable. This is a way for people to stay in line, because there are 3 things you got to have to be successful in life: responsibility, authority, and accountability, Matt.
Well, I'm sitting here brainstorming, and we've seen some backlash in a different venue with Anheuser-Busch and the Bud Light thing that went down with some of their influencers, right? I think if I was the new marketing director for Anheuser-Busch, I would be contacting Riley Grains, and I bet I'd sell more Bud Light. I'd get that young lady out there, and I'd start talking about her value system, and I bet we get some of those customers back. I'm just telling you.
I'm gonna reach out to Riley. Yeah,
I'm just telling you, it's such a volatile time right now. You can lose a lot within your organization, your company. You make one bad decision, and for us right now as administrators, it's interesting because John's at ULM, I'm at Rhodes. We're not dealing with Bryce Young, Dr. Pepper deals, right? Yeah. But we're really looking at a model that's student athlete success. If John can get, or not John, if the industry proves where some of John's women's athletes get some great deals, that benefits his whole department, not just those young ladies, the whole department. Same thing with us. When we went to, we invested in the Mogul platform for our NIL deals. Now, we don't have big deals at Rhodes, but the fact in a recruiting scenario, we can talk about, we have a platform that our student athletes are able to sign up for to get an NIL deal through Mogul. It's been great for us. So you got to have some positive energy out there. I look back to what you said earlier, with ULM hiring John, it's just such a win-win. And you look at the location for his family and where they're back to and what he's going to do there. And John, I hope you win on September 2nd. That's a big football game. That'd be great. I mean, I'm going to tell you what, Army's tough, man. That's not only is that a tough game, it's a tough opener because of the style of play, Yeah. So, but yeah, I just think there's so many branding opportunities out there. I'm sorry for running on.
No. I was just going to agree with you and say Jerry Kirby, our NFL guru, Clarksville, Tennessee, just texted me. He's unbelievable. This guy always has our back. Olivia Dunn is from Westwood, New Jersey. I didn't know they had beautiful women like that in New Jersey because I've been to New Jersey before. What exit are you from? No, but anyway, I digress. But interesting thing here from Dave Cody, my great friend listening out in Bellingham, Washington. We were talking about Paul Harvey being at Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, and the fireworks went off on the ground and set the stage and the scoreboard on fire. It was terrifying, but there were no serious injuries. Speaking of Paul Harvey, we had him at a seminar back in May or June of 91, or in July of 91 when I worked for First Tennessee Bank. And it was at the Peabody downtown, and we sold it out so fast. And a buddy of mine was talking about it. He said, man, when you call your customers and tell them Paul Harvey's coming, that's going to be like saying you could have been there on the tarmac at JFK Airport in 1964 when the Beatles got off the plane. That guy was big. And now the rest of the story. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Let me say this. We run out of time. Unbelievable insight from both of y'all. Matt Dean, Rhodes College, endowment now surpassing $400 million. John Hartwell, what you talked about, Lainey Wilson, Tim McGraw, mentioned the third singer, Riley Scott.
Dylan Scott.
Dylan Scott. Okay. Concerts at ULM. You are thinking outside the box. I love this stuff. I mean, because is Lainey Wilson the cowgirl that sings on Yellowstone?
Yes, she is.
Oh, yep. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. She's super talented. Super talented. Look, it's unbelievable. And I got a text yesterday from Eddie Robinson III down in Louisiana. He's going to be on the show here with us soon. I believe he lives in Dallas. I met him at the Saban Legacy Award dinner last year. So many great things going on in college athletics. Hey, folks, do yourselves a favor. Turn off the negativity, focus inward, and find excuses to win. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Most often we find the face of Christ and the least among us. And just remember, tell your friends to listen to Sidelines, to all of our sponsors, to all of our listeners. Thanks so much. John Hartwell, AD, ULM. Tell them how they can follow you and Matt, and we'll let you go.
Yeah, you can follow ULM Athletics at ULMWarhawks.com. My Twitter, John_Hartwell. And, guys, as always, I look forward to this time every week. Not
it's like a class session now.
Not just really talented, knowledgeable folks in the college athletics industry, but even better people, and I appreciate it. Hey, and I'd be remiss again. I know we mentioned this last week, but we celebrated Independence Day a couple of days ago, and we're blessed. I know we've got challenges in our world and our society, but we live in the greatest country in the world, and blessed to do that.
Absolutely agreed. Ditto, 110%. Matt?
I echo what John said. Follow me at Dino Hoops 44. Getting ready to head to Florida for a big vacation. Got the fam going to Gulf Shores, Alabama area, baby.
Maybe L.A., Lower Alabama, the redneck.
Lower Alabama.
Looking forward to it.
Head over there on Canal Street and go to Doc's Seafood by the Publix there in Orange Beach, man. OBA. I love it. Everybody, thank you, man. We ran out of time. We'll see you tomorrow. We are out of here.